Before we get to them, though, let's get to IP in the news.
Okay. Somebody dug up an Apple patent. So it was on thedrive.com by Rob Stumpf. He had this little article on this Apple patent. So Rob Stumpf is known as like the driver, like he loves cars. So what is an Apple patent doing with cars? Well, apparently, and we have the patent right here.
Did you all see that?
so Apple had been experimenting with making bumpers for cars that are inflatable and deflatable. So if you're parking in New York City on the curb and you've got 2 inches in front and 2 inches behind, you can collapse your bumper. And then when you go out in New York traffic, you can blow it back up. And they had 44 drawings or figures.
Yeah, how many drawings does it take to show an inflatable bumper?
A lot. And
it's just sort of like a big raft around the car, or
so this just issued April 13th, 2021. So the question that this brings to mind is, Apple gonna start making cars? Yeah.
I guess that's possible. I'd like one of those for my cell phone, right? I mean, if they just enclosed it in a bumper, then when I drop it, it wouldn't break so fast. But anyway.
You have never, ever broken your cell phone.
I haven't. Our son has.
Too many times to count.
No.
So that is, I think, really interesting. That's IP in the news. So I think the bumper idea is really cool. It would take some special electronics.
It's just amazing. Apple as a company is just into so many different things, and car bumpers. I guess if you're creating self-driving cars, you need an inflatable bumper, don't you? Because you never know what's going to happen.
Yeah, but it seems too like Apple is one of those companies that's doing research for the sake of research for futuristic projects and products, and then whatever really makes it, they'll choose. But I think it's great they're funding all this research into all these different kinds of things. I think it's awesome.
Yeah. But yes, not a well-known fact about Apple, that's for sure.
So basketball.
So everybody who's a sports fan has probably heard the term three-peat, right? And it means 3 championships, whether it's boxing, whether it's basketball, whether it's the Super Bowl. So Pat Riley, who is the coach of the Lakers back in the 80s, actually trademarked the term three-peat. And of course, after the Chicago Bulls won the first, three-peat, I guess, in the NBA, he was able to market that trademark and made a whole boatload of money on that. So,
$300,000 in royalties on a trademark. He's probably spent $1,000 to $2,000 on the trademark, and then was able to leverage it for $300,000. So way to go.
So yeah, you just have to have the brains to kind of come up with something like that, I guess. But he did file a trademark on it, and so also be careful when you use the word three-peat. You may owe Pat Riley a little bit of cash. So, so we're on to Richard's Roundtable. So I'd like to welcome our guest this evening, Passage to Profit. Wally, you just heard a little bit about intellectual property. What are your thoughts?
Oh man, that three-peat thing, I think it's totally ludicrous. Like I have an even bigger example in my sport. There's a similar thing. So the word ping pong, right, is trademarked. So that means, like, for example, for my business, if I wanted to say New York's premier social ping pong club, we could be sued, right? Which is crazy because ping pong is the sport. Chinese call it ping pong, right? But Parker Brothers trademark this word ping pong. So the only way we could use ping pong is that we got together with Parker Brothers' sister company, which is Escalade Sports, which is under Stiga, which is a table tennis company. So they sponsor us, and that's the only way we could use ping pong.
Wow.
I did not know that.
I did not know that. I would have thought that ping pong was generic by now. And by generic, it means it's so widely used that the trademark's ineffective. But I guess it hasn't gotten to that point yet. So
I think someone should take them to court for it. I think just no one's never taken it to court, because I don't think you can trademark the name of a sport.
Well, you know what? I'm an intellectual property lawyer. If you have a few extra bucks, let's try it out and see what happens.
We do litigation at Gearhart Law, so you never know. Well, that was a great story. Thanks, Wally.
So now, Lynn, what are your thoughts?
My thoughts on it, it is crazy, like Wally said, but it's kind of genius. And I guess it depends on what side of the table the coin falls on, you know. So if you can get ahead of the curve and you can patent something like that, then like you said, a few thousand for 300,000, you know, that's entrepreneurship at its finest, I guess. And you know, in that aspect.
That's
Thanks.
Thank you. That's pretty astute. Obviously, a real entrepreneur speaking there.
Yes.
So David, what are your thoughts?
Actually, I think on the Apple patent, I think it's kind of interesting. I always look at them as a technology company first, and I can actually see them licensing out that technology to all the car companies as opposed to making their own cars. You know, they can make buku bucks if they're licensing it out to all the different manufacturers.
Yeah, I know he would use it for his car. If he gets the tiniest little scratch on his car, it has to go in for a paint job.
I put it on my little daughters. That way, when they run into the walls and tables, we're good to go.
But I mean, the question is if you have an inflatable bumper on the car, where is the cool factor? You know, I mean, that is just like the whole point of driving is that you're in control, right? And you know, like you need an inflatable bumper. Come on, you know.
Maybe you'll be able to it'll be some sort of touch screen, and you'll be able to make it look like something else and not just a bumper. I don't know.
Yes, there you go.
So Kelly and Kaylee, what are your thoughts here?
I think we related to the, trademarking of the name. We created children's products that we ended up calling Snugglers because the word lovey was also trademarked. And so we were not able to say, it was a description of like what we were making. And apparently the person who owns Lovey is also very adamant once you use that word, coming after you with.
We always joke that it's a cutthroat lovey world in the children's toy industry.
Wow. Well, yeah.
Well, good for you for figuring that out. I mean, we know people that have totally branded with something, and then somebody says you're using my trademark name, so you have to change all your branding, and that could be really expensive.
Yeah, we'll get into it more later, but our whole business is built on IP, and we were lucky that we had gone that route before venturing too far down the road.
Good. We look forward to hearing about that. Kenya, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, so I remember that whole basketball dynasty. I think it was Michael Jordan, Scottie Pippen. And what I'm curious about is how did he, at what point did he decide to trademark it? Because I feel like it was like this real universal term that was used a lot. And I guess my question for you, Richard, is how much proof of use does someone have to have before they can actually file a patent?
Oh, that's a great question. There's a couple of different types of trademarks. You can file an intent to use application, which means you're not using it yet in business. But then to actually get the trademark, you have to show that you're actually using the word in interstate commerce. And so trademark rights are always based on use. And you have to use it for the types of goods that you're actually selling. So, and the trademark office requires that you submit proof of that use in order to get your trademark. So you have to send invoices or some other commercial document into the trademark office to prove that you are using it. So I agree. I'm not really sure. It seems like I heard it before, but maybe, Pat was the first one who coined it. So, and he would be then entitled to the trademark rights. If so, does that answer your question? Or?
It does. It's almost like who said it first, right? It's tricky.
Right. And he would have to show, proof for it. And it generally is the scope of the trademark is going to depend on what kind of goods it's associated with. So he may have put three-peats for like t-shirts or caps. And so in general, you can't block somebody from using the words three-peat, but you could stop somebody from selling sportswear with it, for example. So it all depends on how he registered it too. So the word may have been out there, but he may have been the first to do it for t-shirts or something. So anyway.